All right, welcome to the testimonial section of our show with Neil Martin, one of my clients who's been with me for like 5 years. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but I just want to bring Neil in today to introduce him to the world because this guy's been kicking ass for a long time and he's had obstacles get in the way. But just this week, we've had a breakthrough that once again put us back on the winning track. And he ended up with like 3 pounds of weight loss this week, which put us in a really excited state, and there was some muscle developing, some fat loss, some water, some things we had to do to kind of work around his lifestyle and his new job, and we're going to talk about all that today. So, welcome to the interview, and of course to the world of everyone who's watching our show today. Introducing Neil Martin, who's here all the way from where are you at, Neil?
Well, I'm in Sudbury, in Chemmy,
Sudbury?
well, you're not in Chemmy anymore.
Not anymore.
No,
Yeah.
you're you're
So
far out now. Yeah.
you're still in Chelmsford, though, right?
Yeah, I am.
Perfect. There we go. And how old are you now?
I am 28 and I'll be 29 at the beginning of the next year.
There we go. So anyone who's watching this is listening and going, okay, I relate. I'm in that age range, or maybe you're not, but you're still inspired by the youth of 28, 29 years old. And you're going to hear a little story about how this lifestyle, came to be where it's at today. So how long ago did we end up starting our journey, and where were you at when we first started?
So I think, well, we had just talked about this, but uh, I had just come out of, I guess, the last COVID lockdown, maybe, or we're just about to go into another one, or a bit before then.
Maybe, yeah.
Something around that. I think it was around the time, like when my dad had gotten sick and had passed, and then I, was dealing with that, and I was dealing with, trying to get in shape and trying to, feel better about, well, just everything in life, uh,
Totally.
from where I was then.
Hmm.
Um, and I think, uh, yeah, I had been going to the gym where you were the trainer at the time, like basically since it had opened, and
Hmm.
it opened when I was like 21.
Okay.
And so I had just been going there trying different things, um, just on my own, right? Like just learning like, oh, how do I use this machine, or what kind of weights, and what do I do, and being on the treadmill for like 40 minutes or whatever and trying to make it all work on my own. And I was getting absolutely nowhere at all. And I just felt like I had no idea what I was doing or how to actually like get in shape. Like they say like, oh, just go hit the gym. Just go hit the weights, bro. But it's like, yeah, like I'm doing that and nothing's happening. Like 'cause I wasn't doing it right at all. And so I started with you, and very quickly I like immediately learned like how far off I was for years. And you really helped me, like, I mean, even just learning the basics, uh and just making I immediately started to feel changes and see changes in myself. And um what am I trying to say now?
It
It
was,
was
yeah, it
it
was, it
changed.
was pretty quick. The changes you were catching on to things. I know you were one to
Yeah.
overanalyze a little bit, like you're really hard on yourself, and you wanted to get it all perfect. And I can relate because I try to do the same thing too.
Yeah.
But you really did listen, and you focused, and you applied, and I felt like yeah, it was building a sense of confidence for you in there that you were not wandering around aimlessly anymore. So I don't know if that's where you were trying to head with that, but
Yes, that
yeah,
is, yeah, that's exactly it. I felt like I wasn't just at the gym like because I was supposed to, and I had no clue what I was doing, and feeling like I was like stuck in the mud. And I started to feel like I could actually make progress
mm,
in fitness and in my health. And I mean, to say what, I'm still, I think, a long ways away from where I want to be, even after 5 years. But there's been, I mean, there's been obstacles, and I really feel like the changes I went through in those first few years. I mean, even those first few months when I was like really like on these like hard full body programs,
mhm.
and like I I just want to get like I want to feel that way again, and I'm chasing that now. Like I think I'm just like just what it's done and how it's changed my life has been incredible. And
Right.
I feel like I mean, for a lot of reasons, after, COVID, I feel like a completely different person, but this has been probably the best, the best way that I've felt different.
That's amazing. Yeah, man. Like people are always chasing that goal, that aesthetic goal, looking for a certain way. But you just talked about like chasing a feeling instead. Like I want to chase that feel of how I felt then when I felt my best. I think
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. You frame it that way for yourself. You're not looking for a specific guy in the mirror image as much as you are the way you felt when the aesthetics and the look come with it. I think, and that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, and my body's changed the way it's looked in a lot of ways, but I still feel like, I mean, if I was to look at a picture of myself from where I started, like a picture of me today, I don't think anybody would say I've like sculpted an amazing physique yet, but just in the way that I feel like there's stuff in my arms now that wasn't there before, and but the
Hmm.
way my body like feels like there's like a foundation inside my body now that's been built. And like even though I might not look that different, I feel built. Like I have like something I'm building on top of now, and like my whole body just, I don't know, I feel completely different.
Yeah, I love that, man. This is why I want to share your story because not everybody, develops the same way. Some people, their genetics just bless them and they start to physically change and the muscles start popping out and everything. And it's evident, okay, that person works out and they're training and stuff. But, there's some people drawn to aesthetic and other people just want to hear about the health version of like, what is fitness for you if it was all based on health and nothing to do with aesthetic. And I think you really represent that well because you've gone through a lot of health up and down, and whether it be mental health or physical health, or you've seen it all. Like you've battled a lot. And for a guy who's as young as you are, you've got a
Yeah.
lot of experiences. And I think that's important that everybody gets a chance to hear that and share, in some of those. Because you've kind of talked about what your best results have been just more of like feeling good. And now you talked about a foundation. We're building upon that. That sets you up for
Yeah.
success in itself. What could you build on that foundation? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think that's I think probably the biggest thing I have from, I mean, even sitting here now, I can like feel my triceps like
Hmm.
just in my arms, even if, it's, and there's like just all these like places where my muscles like just, that I have muscles now that I never did before, and then my breathing like feels better, and like just my whole energy and everything feels like, I honestly, I say that, but I almost like can't even remember how I used to be when I was really like in university and like just making it through the day and just
That's
trying to find my
awesome.
comfiest pair of track pants to wear to school, and like,
Right, right.
like barely getting out of bed. But
Yeah. Did you used to hide a lot, like hide under clothing, big baggy clothes and stuff like you're talking about? Were you ashamed of yourself, or did you feel the lack of confidence to be able to? And now you wear a tank top, or have no shirt on and feel much more comfortable in your own skin. Did that ever change?
no, I've like never felt, even when even though I don't really like the look, and I would like to, I like a more consistent looking body.
Hmm.
Even though I'm more concerned with just like the health of it.
Hmm.
Like I mean, like I had like really thin arms, and then like a fat stomach, and then like and then like kind of like decent legs because I played like tennis and I went hiking a lot, and so I always felt like my look was just all over the place.
Yeah,
And so
right.
I kind of wanted like a nicer, more consistent physique, but even as like a kid or teenager, adult or whatever, like I've always worn tank tops at my biggest, at my most out of shape, at my least out of shape. That's
Okay.
never been the number one concern for me.
Yeah.
But it does, I mean, I do, when I'm at the gym, if I'm wearing a tank top and I put down some weights and I like see a muscle or something, I'm like, oh yeah.
It feels good, right? It's rewarding. You're like, yes,
I
sir,
know.
that's me.
Yeah, and sometimes I just like, or even at work, or if I catch myself somewhere, like I do find myself like appreciating how I look more now. And I think it's because of all the effort I've put in, even though the look has been secondary, because I feel like, I don't know, I get people want to look a certain way, but I feel like I want my body to like do stuff and perform a certain way. And then however my body has to look to get me to perform that way, that's how it should look.
Hmm.
But I don't know how that's going to look until I get there. So I'm not that's why I've never said I'm like too concerned about my looks,
Hmm.
because I want to get my body to like a place where I don't know what I'm saying. Where it
No, that's,
does,
you framed it great, man. You're literally chasing the performance and the health of the body, and wherever that lands aesthetically,
yeah,
it's fine with you. You know what I mean?
because
Because
there's all,
it'll be where it's
yeah,
supposed to be when you get there.
yeah, and there's all kinds of like, you know, I mean, like if you look at different athletes in all kinds of different fields, they look like all kinds of different ways. Whether some guys like look like fat as shit, and then
Yeah.
then they throw a tractor across the field. You're like, oh, he's probably fit.
I love it. Yeah, you're right.
But some of, you know, and so I
Yeah.
like, I mean, not that I'm trying to throw a tractor across the field, but I think just being like, you know, for the things I want to do and the kind of life I want to lead and the goals I have, whatever my body has to look like to do that, it'll look like that when I get there,
Mm.
and that'll, you know, whether I look bigger or jacked or lean down and toned or some kind of mix of the two or something, like I don't know what I'm gonna look like, and I don't know how my body's gonna build muscles.
That's right.
I've
Yeah.
seen I've seen some guys online who are like chasing like building like crazy chest muscles,
Yeah.
but like the way their muscles build, it just looks like wild.
Yeah.
Like their nipples are like on their stomach almost, or like
Right.
something's like the way that they just like build chest is like not like you don't know how your body's gonna necessarily build until you're already in it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd
That's
rather
great. And I think you've got the
chase
right.
something else.
Yeah, you got the right perspective, man. I think that's super cool. Not everybody has that, right? And they're, like you said, chasing a specific look. That's what we mean by aesthetic, is just that look that it's going to have, that presentation. But what you want is to perform well, to be healthy.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned something about like how hard you've had to work to get there. And there's that like that sense of accomplishment because you look in the mirror, you see that tricep muscle, and you go, "Damn, I built that." And
Yeah.
you said, you know, like it's a representation of how hard you had to work. And anyone who's
Mhm.
watching this and going, okay, well, this guy's like, you know, as young as he is, and you've been doing this for 5 years, how hard did you have to work? Well, there was a time we were working out how many days a week, and then put that in perspective with how many days a week you're doing now. You know, 5 years later, are you like 7 days a week in the gym, or what's the protocol that you feel you're most satisfied with that's actually showing you results?
So when I started, and I think I needed this at the beginning, I was kind of going in, uh, it was 3 days a week, and it was like taking me like 3 hours every time I went. And I was going, and there was a time, and it was like, it was so hard. And I was like, I basically like just didn't have a life Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because I'd get home at like 6 o'clock, and then I'd be in the gym till like 9, 10. And I was like really starting to feel myself burn out. And then I told you I was taking 3 hours in the gym, and you're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And then you know, I got to learn that I was doing things way too incorrectly yet again.
Yeah,
And, you know, that brought it down. But I think like when I really started, I was doing like a lot, like way too much.
three
And
hours. Yeah.
yeah, I was doing way more than you were telling me to do.
Mhm.
And like just burning myself out way too hard. But it was a good shock, I think. And I think it helped me like that was after you had helped told me like how to like work out correctly and
Yeah.
not take 3 hours to do something that should take me like an hour and a half, maybe most.
Yeah.
Um, that's when I think I hit my like lowest weight and I had like my best physique when I was like down to like 198 or whatever. And you know, that was like I mean, that was amazing. And then eventually now that this is something you've always told me too, is that now that it's been built, I don't have to work as hard to maintain it.
Mm.
So now that I've really slowed down again, and now I'm going maybe once or twice a week. I I've like really cut that back, and I'm no longer doing weeks. It's like on weekends, and it's a lot lighter. And sometimes I maybe only get in for like one session a week, and I'm still seeing these changes. And yeah, like it's I think it's like you've always told me, like it depends. Like you got to work really hard to build, and then you don't have to work as hard to maintain.
Totally.
So
Yeah, man, you
yeah.
framed it perfectly. For anyone out there who thinks it takes 7 days a week, busting your ass to get physique, to get you know healthy results, Here's a guy who's literally just telling you right now. He started out with way too much, doing 3 hours a day, 3 times a week, dialed it back and started getting great results, right? And, bringing that workout down to a reasonable amount. And now you're at a couple times a week. And just this past week, you ended up with a 3 pound drop. So I want to talk about your lifestyle outside of the gym for a second. So you were first, when you first came to me, were you working at the data center at that time? Is that what you were doing for a living,
I
like most of your day?
I think I was literally unemployed
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I had left because I was working when I was in school. I was doing part-time at the gas station. Then
Mhm.
I left that, and then my dad got sick, and
Mhm.
then COVID happened, and then I left my job when COVID was happening because my dad was going through chemo,
Okay.
and they had cut our shifts down to like 1 day a week. And so it was kind of like my dad like has no immune system and there's
Okay.
this new disease out and I'm like with the public all day. Like it's not worth this job,
Right.
to
Yeah.
be around my dad. So I quit that and then I was just like unemployed like almost a year.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then I think I started with you like sometime like a little bit after he had passed and then I got the job at the data center and then I
Right.
finally left that.
Yeah. And so the job at the data center, this is where you were starting, like we were still training at the gym. You were getting some pretty great results now that you're working out properly and obviously cutting the time spent down. But what does the job at the data center look like for anyone who's out there who has a job that might be, like something like that? It was with a desk clerk, mostly sitting all day. Like, what did 8 hours look like for you?
Well, it looked like sitting in a chair for 8 hours. But I took every opportunity I could to at least like try and get up. There was like a little path around the building
Okay.
that I would go for walks on wherever I could. I mean, in the winter it was kind of gross to do that, but even just on every break, get up and walk, and just on every at lunch, like try and eat my lunch quickly, and then do some walking around, like trying to walk more.
Yeah.
That's all there really is that I can do is just it's just walk around every now and again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, and I mean nowadays they have like little like remember every however many minutes do a little stretch or something so you don't crane your neck and your back or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because people working at computers, a lot of times it's hunched over and,
I
keep.
was very hunched over because I was
Yeah.
way too tall for the
Yeah.
desk.
Right. Right. And the
Like I
posture
was,
becomes an issue, right?
yeah, like I can still like I can still sometimes feel like I feel like my neck is like now just forever like leaning forward and
Cranked
I'm trying to
out.
like
Yeah.
push it back and get my neck back.
Yeah. You got to kind of pull it all in and
Yeah,
set your
and like
posterior chain, right?
to like tuck your chin in or whatever, and it's like
Yeah.
it still feel like I feel like my neck's just like messed up, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's
oh well.
amazing what repetitive will do. It really solidifies
Yeah.
the habitual pattern and alignment. So a lot of people who are hunched over, even nowadays with cell phones and stuff, it's the texting, it's the bent over. It can take its toll, and we got to remember to kind of straighten up posture. So that's good. Now you've taken on a new job. You're no
Mhm.
longer at the data center, but now what do you do? What does your day, 8 hours look like now in comparison?
Well now I work with industrial air compressors,
Hmm.
so fixing those, installing those, doing stuff like that. Still like in training for that. But now
Yeah.
it's a lot more physical of a job. Um, and I think now with this job, 8 hours a day, it's a little come and go, like whether there's a lot of work in that day. I mean, there's been days where I haven't left the shop at all, and I've just been like putzing around in there, like doing little jobs, like taking things apart or whatever. And then there's days where I'm like gone for 10 hours in hot machine shops just working on machines or whatever. So it's a little up and down, but
Yeah.
I find that with that kind of work it's really important for me to now instead of getting exercise and like trying to find times for activity, it's more important for me to focus on, well, really a lot of the stuff you taught me from when I first started with you, because now I'm doing a lot of stuff with my job where I'm lifting like heavy machines or picking up these heavy parts and or I'm bent over in strange ways and I got to try and make sure I'm positioning myself right or taking the right form so I don't injure myself
Right.
at work. Like I mean today I was taking like just like a big piece of a machine off
Hmm.
this thing I was taking apart, and it was so heavy in the way I grabbed it. Like I was like I felt it. I was like, oh, that was not how I should have done that.
Right.
And then but like the rest of the day I was like, okay, squat my legs,
Yeah.
arc my like bring my shoulder blades back, like everything, like even just like wrenching stuff off, I know now to like pull my shoulder blades in. Like if I'm ever bent at all, like do a squat, don't just bend. Like
Right,
I
right.
find that like now it's like I'm really thankful for training with you because I've it's now just ingrained in my mind how to have proper form doing anything physical, and that's probably that might save a couple years on my back.
Oh, dude, for sure. Literally, that posture is that's why I teach it as foundation because it's the most important place to start. It's the most transferable skill, right?
Yeah,
You're going to see it show up. And like you said, you're going to see it carrying parts, cranking wrenches, whatever you're doing. You saw it at the data center sitting at a computer
yeah,
because you're sitting in a chair, which is like kind of like a squat position. Even though the
yeah.
chair is holding up all your weight, you're still in that position. And if you start to round your back, it's like doing a squat with a rounded back. You're going to get hurt. You're going to feel pain, right? So you know to roll your shoulders back and retract your posterior chain. And I mean, it's just things
Yeah.
we learn in foundation. But like you talked about, you know, there's a foundation under everything that feels
Yeah,
amazing and
it's true too.
strong. That's what you're
Yeah,
building on top.
it
I love
helps.
it, man. I love it. So obviously we've gone over how the program's helped you overcome obstacles, plateaus. This past week you were working on because we coach weekly with you. So every week we have a discussion in regards to your measurements, and then so this week you sent the scale measure and you showed down almost 3 pounds this past week, and then we made sense of that, knowing that it wasn't all body fat, it wasn't muscle loss, it was a combination of water loss and things like that. When you first started, what was your relationship like with a scale? And then what's your relationship with the scale now?
Well, I think okay. So with the scale that I had, which I still have, which is the little Canadian Tire one,
Hmm.
I think my relationship with it, it was always like it was discouraging, and it was a like kind of stressful to deal with because really that thing is not very precise
Right.
or helpful. Um, like it was nice to have when I had it because that was when I was going like when I was doing the big 3 days a week
Yeah.
body workouts with you.
Right.
Um, it was nice then because I was doing so much that like it was actually like showing changes and things were happening. But
Hmm.
as I slowed down, eventually like it just kind of became like another thing pointing out, the stress in my life.
Right.
Was like struggling with fitness for a while with you.
Hmm.
It just became another thing pointing out like how much it felt like I had fallen off.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
that's important to touch on there because there's that battle. The obstacle came in where it was started to mentally be where you were battling yourself and you were doubting yourself and you were being hard on yourself and thinking you were failing. And what was that what was the main driver behind that? Do you remember?
well, I think it was just like, I remember I still have like those pictures of when I was like at my like best so
Hmm.
far. My best so far.
Yep.
Back then, and just remember how good I felt, and then all the stuff that happened, and I ended up getting off of my fitness progress and
Right.
losing that momentum,
Hmm.
and ended up gaining like honestly almost more of the weight back than I even had when I started.
Right.
And I had like, and it felt like I had worked really hard, gone through all this stuff where I was like, I didn't know what I was doing, and I was learning all this foundational stuff, and then I was like, I felt like I was struggling with the programs that you were giving me. Like I didn't even feel like I was succeeding at those, but like stuff was showing results, and then we were working on it. It felt like I was working on it. I was in the middle of all this progress, and then I just lost all of it.
Hmm.
And it's really hard to feel that much loss and then to get yourself going again.
Tough for
And the and,
sure.
and the scale didn't and the
Yeah.
scale stopped being like something that made me feel good. It became something that made me feel bad. Like it just,
Yeah. Like you
there's
said,
fair weather.
you mentioned it like a reminder of failure, basically, is what you
Yeah.
were feeling, right? It was literally
Yeah.
that reminder. And so, what changed? How did you get back on track? What was the switch that needed to flip? And how did the scale become part of this new, exciting, journey? I mean, where did it come
Well,
back into play?
you convinced me to get that fancier scale where you put your feet on it. Which the first time I saw it was actually with you, and like I first started as your client, and you got like the base readings or whatever.
Hmm.
And I remember being like, "How does this thing just read it?" It's the thing you read it through your feet,
Hmm.
and it read like it gives like a guess as to like your water or whatever, and then every day you do it, it'll be accurate, showing you whether it's gone up or down at least.
Yeah.
And that thing has just been like one. It was like I remember getting on the scale and getting on that on the I forget what's the name of that scale.
The
What's
Renfo scale, the
the
one we use.
Renfo scale?
Yeah.
Yeah. So getting on the Renfo, like first of all, the Renfo said I was way lighter than my regular $25 scale did.
So that was positive.
So it turns out I wasn't even as far behind. Like my one scale was showing like 223 or something, and then the Renfos is like you're actually at like 217, and I'm
So it was instantly your friend.
like 6 pounds lighter. So I'm like, all right, well then I have a lot less to catch up on than I thought.
Hmm.
Um, and then it just it's given me like even when I've gained weight back while on this current like momentum, this streak of like good behavior,
Yep.
and good progress, it's gives you so many other things to look at and to consider, like water and your skeletal composition and then like your fat or whatever. So it's like even if you gain some weight, well, look at your other numbers. You have other things that are going well for you, and like and
Hmm.
there's so long as you do something right, like you can. It's more encouraging because there's more things that I can succeed at.
Yeah, there's a lot more data collected, right? It's not just a
Yeah,
weight. Here's what you weigh. I don't know what it means. It just here's what you
yeah,
weigh. If it goes up, you can look at many measurable pieces. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of variables that it measures: bone density, water percentages, muscle percentage. Like the more data we collect, the more evidence we have of all the things that are moving, and that's what makes up your weight. So to give you a weight gain or a weight loss number, we don't really know what that means until we look at the details, right? So that makes it fun. It kind of gamifies it. It's something to look forward to. We can actually see your progress in different areas. So this
yeah,
week we saw your muscle mass actually going up, which makes you want to go to that gym and have more fun. And
yeah,
so you're only going a couple times a week and you're enjoying it, which is the
yeah,
biggest difference, right? Than people who
yeah,
go 6 or 7 days and hate their life and they're doing it and beating their body up, you know?
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's
And
important.
that was the big thing too. Is it feels less like I'm what am I saying? Feels less like I'm catching up, or like that I'm struggling to keep up with my workouts or my own fitness. And now I feel almost like I'm ahead. Like things are working out, I'm doing well, and every single little victory is like just driving me to achieve even more.
Nice.
And it's nice because and I think it's better for me because it's health is something I have to do for the rest of my life, is take care of my health.
Exactly.
So it shouldn't feel like I have this big thing I'm chasing. It should feel it's better. I like feeling like that it's more of a it's becoming less and less like a victory, like I'm achieving things, and more just like, yeah, this is just how life is.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It's who you're becoming in the journey. That's what I always
Yeah.
talk about too, is that's what a transformation should be. It's not a quick fix. It's not a 1 month. I'm going to see how this turns out. It's a lifetime of establishing new habits, reprogramming your brain and your body to work together. I mean, you're a great example of doing this. And dude, you're doing this at a young age. You know what I mean? Like you're way ahead. The people who are at 60, 70 years old are saying, why didn't I get started on this back when I was 30? I would be so much further ahead now. And even then, it's still not too late. Even at 60, you get active,
No.
you're doing it. But you're way ahead of the game. So this is awesome, and to be able to hear that from you in your own words, your own terms, it's keeping you stay motivated and accountable now that you're seeing results. You're very motivated by results, which most people are.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's great. And if you don't have a whole family of people around you who are all fitness minded,
Mhm.
it makes it a little more difficult. Like your support system and your circle is what really, you have to be careful of because it can pull you back too.
Yeah, but I
Have you had good relationship with the people around you who support you, and how do
absolutely.
you control that element?
Well, I've been very lucky that I mean I owe a lot of my success really to my family and to my mom. Like as soon as I said like I need to change how I'm eating, I need to change what I'm eating, like I need to change what I'm doing, like she's been sending me stuff every now and again, like look at the nutrition in this. Is this enough protein? Or oh, actually, you need higher protein. I found a protein thing on here. So
Nice.
she's like, oh, I found this high protein pasta. Like, you know, you like pasta? I'm like, yeah, I do.
Right
She
on.
just so I've had like I've had a lot of support, and I've been really lucky in that way. Um, but I think a lot of, I mean, but it's also tough because it's like you don't want to like, I don't know, you don't want to like try and let you changing yourself affect other people or the other people in your life or in some
Mhm.
way or to make it sound like, oh, I don't want to go do this thing because I need to be watching my fitness or anything like that.
Right.
And, like certain things, like like if I want to go out with friends to get something to eat,
Hmm.
or go to my favorite poutine place or something
Yeah.
like that, which I shouldn't, oh, shouldn't be eating poutine. It's bad for you. But and it's been learning like how to balance those things and finding out like, oh no, I actually can still, I can go out to anything with my friends. I just have to adjust for the days that I'm not there,
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
for the rest of the days.
Hmm.
Like if I go and eat like something, unhealthy, I just have to make sure that I'm either cutting back a bit on what I'm eating the next day or working out a bit more, just and not even like in a stressful way. Just do like literally anything extra at all.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
just literally and you can offset it because your body's gonna burn a lot
That's
on its
really
own,
cool.
whether you're eating good or bad. Like,
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's I don't know if that's what you were asking
No,
me.
that's a
I've
great,
kind of
great
gone off on
message.
a
Yeah.
tangent there, but
No, that's perfect, man, because you brought in some reality there. And again, this is not a scripted conversation, right? We're just literally shooting the breeze here about your real life, your application. And what you're talking about there is going out with friends, not being so obsessed about your fitness journey that you can't go and enjoy the things that you and your friends enjoy, right? And you have a poutine or whatever, but you're talking about balance in the way of if I do that, I can also offset the negative effects of that by having some of this adjustment in my nutrition. And that took time to learn and be okay with.
well, it's still taking time for me to get into the nutrition to adjust to that. I mean,
Yeah.
one thing I'm crazy that was really crazy was finding out like, oh, I was eating way too much.
Mm.
Like I don't need to actually eat as much as I have been, or and not well, not so. That's not well. That's the wrong way of saying it. It's more like finding out like what an actual proper portion is.
Okay.
I think has really been changing my life. Like I got a kitchen scale
Hmm.
and I've been using like certain things and like actually measuring what I'm getting, like what I'm putting on my plate and
Right.
finding out like what I actually should be eating in a day and things like that. Like that has also really that has been like a really huge change and and it's made me feel better.
Mm.
You
Good.
know, at the beginning it was like kind of tricky when we were on that calorie cut thing, like it's hard because like I'm hungry and I'm like, oh, I'm intentionally under eating a bit for whatever thing, but that was only temporary and finding out like the maintenance calories and all that, balancing all that, and then eventually like adjusting. And I figured out, oh no, I'm actually like I can still eat what I like, and I can still eat um, well, and I'm not starving all the time. I'm not starving myself, and I can still see like changes and results and feeling better. And it's definitely probably the most challenging part, I would say, because it's a lot of balancing that I've never done
Okay. Yeah.
in my life at all. So since I started with you and when we started working on nutrition, that's probably been the biggest challenge for me was just trying to get all that out. But again, I've been lucky, like, everybody in my family has like been supportive of me and that
Yes.
I think that's why I have that success that I do have this, as soon as I said I need to change how I'm eating, everybody around me was like, you know, all
They were,
right,
yeah, they
we're
were
on
willing to
board.
work with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is cool. And you mentioned in there a couple of things. Obviously, support is a major one. You got great support systems. The other one was the kitchen scale. And a lot of people are going to be like, oh, there's that word scale again. And everybody's like, scales stress me out. Is that kitchen scale, like I think you said it, you're not stressed by it. You're actually finding it relieving. It's taught you some things and it's helped you.
Yeah. Well, I'm really bad at judging things by eye. Like really bad. Like when I'm at work and I have to like unscrew something, I need to grab every single wrench in the toolbox. 'Cause I
Okay.
don't I don't know if it's a quarter inch or a half inch or I'm that bad. So
You're learning too. Yeah.
the kitchen scale literally let me put stuff into proportion and just like I think what was mind blowing to me was like I put on like what I think was like a normal thing of meat onto my plate and it was really encouraging because then I was like, oh, well, this is probably like a 3 ounce, portion or whatever. And then I put it on the scale and it's like 14 ounces. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it turns out I'm like, oh, I'm really hitting my protein goal. Oh, this is way easier than I thought.
Hmm.
And and then I'm like, and then it's been good in other ways when I like, because I really love carbs a lot.
Yeah.
Pasta, rice, potatoes, all of it. And then when I put it onto the kitchen scale and I'm like, okay, I need to stay within 50 grams. I'm like, oh my God, that's so much less than I usually put on there because you can really just pile a plate with like pasta and rice, right? And
Hmm.
it's it's not been making me feel starved. It's been like, oh, this is a good portion. Like I
Right.
was just throwing things on before. This is what I should be having
Hmm.
to stay balanced, and it's been like really encouraging and helping me like figure out. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm
No,
rambling
that's
again.
perfect, man.
Like
You're right.
everything, like it just put everything into perspective, and I feel like I know I'm still bad. I will probably always need a kitchen scale because I still like don't know what I'm doing or how to read anything or judge things by eye, but it's really helped me like just put
Yeah.
things into perspective and keep me on the right track.
That's awesome because then for people who fear the scale, they're like, okay, well, that's reassuring. I probably could live with it the same way he is, using that as a tool to help me get the right amounts. And I'm
Mhm.
probably eating more than I should be if I'm basing it on eyeball portions. So it helps you to kind of put it in perspective. And
Yeah,
then if you're, as we talked about the different macronutrients, each one of them, you're trying to have a control over each one. This helps you to measure those controls.
yeah,
Then you feel completely satisfied in the way of like, here's how much I should be having, and then you adjust to that, right? So it
yeah.
becomes more normal.
I'd say I feel better now too after eating than I
Okay.
ever have before. Like when I was overeating, like I'd feel like tired or like, and I've always hated feeling like full,
Hmm.
but like I would just eat a lot,
Stuffed.
and then I would feel like literally like a bag of potatoes because I was
for
I
for
was literally a bag of potatoes.
yeah, literally. Tell you what you ate to feel that way.
Yeah, yeah. But now like I feel like after eating, I'm feeling, I am feeling the energy from eating now, which is something you always talk to me about. That I always found strange. You're like, oh, it's like 2 hours after eating, you should feel the
Right.
energy. I'm now that I'm eating healthier and with better portions, like I'm going about my day, like I eat lunch at work, and then all of a sudden, if I eat at 12, 2 o'clock runs around, and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
I'm like picking up on the stuff that you're like telling me about now. Like I'm seeing it in real life.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes time for that to kick in, right? Like,
Yeah.
people go, oh, you've been at it for 5 years, you didn't catch on by now. Everyone learns differently, and sometimes it just, when it comes to you, it hits you, and you're like, now I get it, and I'll never
Yeah.
forget. But it's
Yeah.
that's the transformation journey. That's what it takes. So it's not to be perfect; it's to be consistently growing a little bit at a time and learning things and applying them and testing them. And like so, everything we've been talking about today has been the journey of what's got you to where you're sitting here today with the confidence and the excitement in your voice.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, if they look at like, say being at your job for 5 years, you start to get bored of it. It's the same thing in and out, day in, day out. A lot of people start to head down that path. And they're like, after 5 years at a job, it's like it's autopilot. I just go in like a zombie. Here you are 5 years later in your journey going, I'm just getting started again. Like I'm feeling like it's starting to make sense, connect, and I'm feeling better. The
Yeah.
foundation I built back then was worth all the work. And
Yeah.
like I think you're appreciative of everything you did and everything you've learned, and now it's starting to come together. Which is why I thought now's a really good time to do this little interview, is because
Yeah.
you've got a lot better platform to speak from because you got so much experience in the journey. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I guess I do, and yeah, and and that's I guess the best feeling, like when I felt like I had lost all the progress I had made for a while. I get like in that like whatever year 2, 3 or whatever when it got really rough, and
hmm,
but it was when I started to get back to it, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, like my game, like all this, like I'm like, this is when I finally got out of that funk, and I was like, okay, let's get back to it. And
hmm.
all of a sudden I had all these changes, and so many things were looking good, and things were working well, and you had said like, well, yeah, because you had built all that before, and that's still there, and I just had to go back to it. So like
Much faster.
yeah, but it was like I was afraid, like it put into perspective that I hadn't lost. Like I hadn't lost what I had gained. Like I had felt like that I had because I was weaker and I was like more weight, and I was like my energy was all terrible again, and but then when I finally started getting back to it, it came back so quick because I hadn't actually lost.
That's right. It
I
was all
hadn't actually
just
lost.
it was all just how you were framing it and how you were talking
Yeah.
to yourself about it, which was more of like a negative spin on it when the reality wasn't that at all. You were beating yourself up a lot more than you deserved to be. And once I helped you coach through that, I think that was really what broke the mindset part to open it back
Yeah.
up, where you could get back to work, put a positive spin on it. Next thing you know, here you are with the results, right? So you hadn't lost the things, you had just gotten away from them for a while. You were feeling out of alignment, and yeah, so I think that's awesome, and it's great that you're sharing that because a lot of people are going through those same types of things. Even people who
Yeah.
worked out for 2 or 3 years and have stopped are probably sitting there right now beating themselves up, going, "Oh, I let myself go too." Well, learn from what Neil just said, right? Like literally, he was sitting in that same seat, going, "Oh man, I destroyed everything I ever worked for." No, that's not true. You didn't. It's just
It's
you've gotten
there.
away from it. You just got to get
It's there.
back
You
to
just
it.
got to go back to it. Yeah.
That's it. Cool,
Yeah.
man. Any closing thoughts or final messages or thoughts on any of your progress or updates?
Um, I think it's just that I would say that I feel like I'm in the middle, and I'm excited to be in the middle, and I'm excited, well, maybe even a bit before I'm in the middle. I feel like I'm getting something going,
Yeah.
but I'm really excited this time, and it feels, I mean, everything is different. I feel much better about what I'm eating. Like I have more knowledge about how to balance my nutrition,
Hmm.
my health, everything I'm doing. Fitness wise, I feel like I'm more capable. And not that I'm like just more confident in life, but I'm confident in how to take care of myself. And uh, I I think I'm endlessly thankful that I started training with you and for everything you've guided me through and got me doing, and you have changed my life completely, and I can't thank you enough for that.
That's awesome. I did not pay him to say that.
No,
I appreciate that,
no,
though, man. That's awesome. We've never given up. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the things we've said back and forth
no,
in a lot of our messaging is this, we're never going to give up on this. It's going to
no,
be something we'll work through, and that's the whole
no,
point of having a coach is for those times when when the rubber meets the road, you get the work done, everything's going well. You're doing well, but then when things aren't going well, those obstacles start to present themselves. Now, what game plan is going to save us and keep us going? That's what we've really
yeah,
mastered that together, and
yeah.
it's been exciting to see how you've transformed 5 years. I can't wait to see what the next five look like. You know what I
Me
mean?
too.
Like that's awesome, man. That's so cool. And people are like, "Oh, this is crazy. I didn't realize it was such a transformation. I thought it was like if you do like 8 weeks or 12 weeks, you should be done." The journey's never done. It's like there's no
No,
set destination. And I think we started out with that today. It's like we don't know what the body's going to look like when we get there because we probably won't ever get there as a final destination. There'll always be another destination we shoot for after that, and then
yeah,
another one, right? Like
yeah,
you can't just pick a date or a landmark or a body weight goal or whatever because then as soon as you get there, you're going to set something new. There's always a journey to be had, and it's developing who you become in that journey. So yeah, I'm super proud of you, man. It's the journey of how far you've come so far, and it's
yeah.
just getting started. Like you said, you're on the first part of it still. And there's so many great years ahead of where you're going to take this. So,
I'm really excited to see where I can go, and I really feel like I'm making changes, and even though I feel like I'm not working out as much as I did when I first started, I feel like I'm making better progress now than I did then.
right, less is
Just
more. We've heard that
yeah,
before, right?
yeah. And I think it's because I'm really gonna build something. I'm really building something like real
Hmm.
now. I'm not just throwing myself at a wall,
Right.
going way too hard to just to because you need to go hard. Like I'm actually gonna build myself up to something where I don't know. It'll just keep going.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. Super cool. All right. Well, that's awesome. If there is more updates, we are going to do another episode with Neil and come back because I'm sure everybody who's watched this now is going to want to hear how, things continue to develop. Give it another year or two. You know what I mean? Let's see where things go. Everybody says, remember that show, The Biggest Loser? They all lost so much weight. Where are they now, right? Where are they today? And most of those people have all gained that weight back and then some because the approach they took was not the one you just told everybody about. And so your journey is, real life, real application. So where will you be in a year? Well, we're going to find out. We'll revisit things as we go. But of course, we're looking at more and more progress. So I'm
Yeah.
excited. Thanks for joining me today on the call and for sharing your story, man. It's
Thanks.
been awesome. And
Thanks for talking
keep
to
us
me.
keep us updated because everybody's going to want to hear more and more about the journey. So also this will keep you motivated. So you heading to the gym tonight, or are you going to have dinner?
Well, if I can fix my truck.
Yeah, oh, that's right.
If
We
I
got
can
a
figure out
truck.
what's going on in my truck, I'll go to the gym.
There
But
you
we'll see.
go. Awesome. All right. Well, if you guys want to follow Neil, you can always check out social medias and things like that. But if not, just check on our pages. We're usually highlighting some of his results week by week as he continues to make progress. And we're looking forward to seeing more from you. So congrats again, buddy.
Thank you.